familiar faces and new faces and faces we haven't seen in a while because of various reasons. But to all the commissioners and presenters and to those watching from home, just want to say thank you for joining today. We have a few presentations that we're going to hear. And then we'll have some remarks, we'll have some discussion about next steps, and then, of course, we will have public comment at the end. And folks are always welcome to enter their public comment online as well. So we are going to go a little bit out of order, but we're going to start with a presentation from the Department of Education and Chef Ann Foundation with B. Thorpe, Kelsey Glass, and MJ Kepner. And so we are going to turn it over to you. Please offer your presentation, and the commissioners will wait for questions till the end.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us, and good to see you all. My name is Bea Thorpe. I'm the lead farm to school specialist with the Virginia Department of Education within the Office of School and Community Nutrition Programs. And I'm presenting today on behalf of Sarah Bennett, our director, who's currently, as we speak, at another speaking engagement. So thanks for having me. Today, I'm going to kind of briefly touch on our work and how it aligns with the Chef Ann Foundation's Healthy School Food Pathways program. And then I'm going to hand it over to Kelsey and MJ with the Chef Ann Foundation. So our office serves as the state's administrator of the National School Lunch and Breakfast programs. Virginia has 156 school food authorities operating over 1,900 school sites. These school nutrition programs reach students in every corner of the Commonwealth. During the 24-25 school year alone, school nutrition programs served over 114 million lunches and 65 million breakfasts. That totals over 179 million meals served to Virginia students in a school year. And while these programs are truly essential in fueling student learning, they continue to face significant challenges in expanding and enhancing their services. We consistently hear from school nutrition directors and partners across the Commonwealth that recruiting and retaining a skilled workforce remains a persistent challenge. And this is supported by national data from the School Nutrition Association's Trends Report, which identifies the top 5 challenges facing school nutrition programs. Those are food costs, labor costs, equipment costs, staff shortages, and procurement issues. And notably, the national report also highlights that the highest vacancy rates were reported in the Mid-Atlantic region, and that includes Virginia. So it really underscores the urgency of addressing the workforce-related barriers. Our office supports Virginia school divisions with implementing these programs, and we really try to approach this at every level. So that first begins with ensuring that program integrity through compliance reviews, comprehensive technical assistance and training, helping all divisions meet those federal requirements. Beyond compliance, we work to elevate programs to help them reach their goals and help them do what they want to do within their own communities. We develop resources and provide training programs to assist school divisions with enhancing meal quality, expanding access, improving operational efficiency, and fostering innovation in school nutrition. We play a key role in strengthening regional food systems by connecting school nutrition programs with Virginia farms and food businesses, fostering those local partnerships that benefit both the students and the communities. And then to further this impact of these programs beyond the cafeteria, we develop nutrition education resources to support that those lifelong healthy eating habits in students, and then integrating learning opportunities that reinforce the importance of balanced meals and informed food choices. We also recognize the common thread to success in all of this, and that's that skilled, dedicated school nutrition workforce. So we're approaching this issue from multiple angles. We're building our trainings to meet the needs of our programs. We're offering opportunities for programs to lead innovation. And we're also strengthening relationships with our partners to seek creative solutions here in Virginia. So this is what leads us to today. Speaking about our partnership with the Chef Ann Foundation, we're so excited and honored to have them as a partner in our work to elevate school meals in Virginia. And then also exploring this opportunity for a registered apprenticeship model with them. Their Healthy School Food Pathways program is an exciting piece of this work to build a sustainable, skilled pipeline of school nutrition professionals. By investing in workforce development and innovative training models, we aim to strengthen the future of school nutrition here in Virginia. And this is guided by ensuring that every student has access to high quality, nourishing meals prepared by well-supported professionals. So with all of that said, I'm going to hand it over to the Chef Ann Foundation team to share more about themselves and the Healthy School Food Pathways program.
Thank you so much, Bee. My name is Kelsey Glass. I'm our Senior Director of Workforce Development at the Chef Ann Foundation, and I'm really excited to share a little bit with you today about the work we've been doing in the Commonwealth and also about our organization. So just some quick background, you've got a picture here of our founder, Chef Ann. She has made it her life's work and really the mission of our organization to really ensure that school food professionals have all the things they need, resources, funding, and support that they need to really provide fresh, healthy, delicious, cooked from scratch meals that are really going to support our children and the health of our planet. And we do this through a variety of different ways. We have a variety of programming that we do. We offer professional development and technical assistance. And then we also have some implementation grants where we're supporting equipment as well as specific programming for schools throughout the country. We are a national organization, so we have done work in all 50 states. We've impacted over 4.4 million children and over 16,000 schools. And honestly, a lot of our work, really deep work, has been done in the Commonwealth, which is super exciting. We've been working with the Department of Education, school and community nutrition programs for the last 3 years, really focused on supporting cohorts of divisions and increasing their scratch cooking, procuring local agriculture, and really being able to inspire or develop student-inspired meals. And so with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about workforce. So, Bee has mentioned, as she sort of explained, that common thread through all of the things that the Department of Education is trying to do, that workforce is critical. And that's what we hear in our work as well. As we look to support schools in scratch cooking and really increasing how they're doing their operations in this manner, we hear over and over that workforce is a challenge. And so it's really this critical element of making sure that students are not just fed, but they're also fed, whole ingredient, scratch cooked meals. And so not only do we need people in those roles, we also need to ensure that they are trained. So that is part of why we're really focusing on that area. The other thing that we're looking at in terms of workforce is really in elevating the school food occupation. It is very honorable. It's mission driven. It's skill based, particularly when we're talking about scratch cooking. And so we really want to sort of move the perception that folks have about what school food is to something that's really fresh and healthy and delicious. So one of the ways that we have decided to address this is through our Healthy School Food Pathway program. And this program is super exciting. It's a true career progression. So we're looking at, how do we leverage registered apprenticeship programming as a framework for high quality workforce development programs. And so we have our pre-apprenticeship, which sort of is this very much an entry-level short-term program. It's this opportunity for folks to come in to sort of try on school food for size, if you will. It is coursework and work-based learning is sort of the two key elements in the program. And there is work-based learning experience in a division so that people actually get to truly try it on for size. And then this is an opportunity, right, for external candidates to come in, try it on for size. And then we also have it available for incumbent or current school food workers to increase their knowledge base so that they've got additional training and development opportunities as well. Then we have our apprenticeship program, and that's for those who would like to continue on in their education and their training. So these are folks who have participated in the pre-apprenticeship and said, yes, I'm really excited about this. So they are in the apprenticeship program, and they are looking to continue their career growth and support the division in their scratch cooking efforts as they go along the way. And then our fellowship is sort of our final tier on our career progression. And this is really for our next generation of school food change makers. These current division leaders go through an intensive program that supports their professional development through 11 different curriculum areas. And we actually have, I'm sorry, I'm reading a comment as well. So these folks, the Commonwealth has actually had four, I can't remember, but we've had a lot of fellows in the Commonwealth. It's just really exciting, and they're doing some really great work as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to just talk about the importance of this work. I think you can all make the connections of why this is critical work. We're talking about supporting our children and families and vulnerable populations. This really supports education and workforce development, making sure that school food workforce is prioritized and something that's really important in our world. We think about this in terms of public health and healthcare savings, really making sure we're looking at this as an upstream approach to health challenges that might happen based on diet. And then, looking at our local agriculture and how do we have those economic benefits and how do we keep those sort of regional economies going in this way. And then truly, this is really a positive investment that creates a backstop program to support hunger relief when other cuts are coming from the federal government. So this is just another way to really bolster programming that can support that. And then finally, just some next steps. We have just had the opportunity to pilot this program in the Commonwealth. So we just started our first cohort last week, which is really exciting. So we've got pre-apprentices in 5 different divisions. Right here, you see a map of the Commonwealth with lots of different colors, and it probably looks very small for you. But that is a group of cohorts that the Sheffian Foundation has been supporting alongside the Virginia Department of Education. So out of all those colors, we have 5 different divisions that you can see here on the slide that are our pilots. And then I just wanted to share, we're working really closely with the Virginia Community College system right now to create articulation agreements and also to see if we can propose our apprenticeship program as part of the Fast Forward program, should community colleges want to offer it. And then also we're really looking into the youth apprenticeship model and working directly with career and technical education in the Commonwealth to really create this pipeline and fill this need and have school food be an option as a career for both our young people and our adults. And so with that, we are done with our presentation. And we'd happily take questions, I can guarantee.
Oh, thank you so much. First, I did forget to thank Senator Rome for suggesting you all for our presentation. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I know public and private partnerships are very important, and how we can really change the face of some of the services. And I worked with a couple of years now. We've had a youth camp during the summer, and we have them choose something that they want to advocate for. And without fail, the taste of lunch has been one of the things that students work on. And I remember in one of our earlier meetings as a commission, we can do all of this to make healthy food, but if a student is not going to eat it, then it's wasteful, but also it prevents like us from getting to the real purpose. And so in addition to this, I was thinking too, uh, the picture of Chef Ann is not the picture that we see in the movies of what the lunch lady looks like. So I'm really glad that you all are putting out different images for what this employment can look like, and then also the like you said, the impacts on the different issues that we're all working on. So I thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, do we have any questions? If you could use your raise hand function, thank you. Delegate Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate this presentation. It's very exciting. In the presentation, I believe you mentioned towards the end that the aligning that school nutrition apprenticeship with the VCCS Fast Forward. Could you clarify if that, what stage of the conversation that's in, or has it already been included in the eligible program list for school divisions for, credentialing? I just wanted to make sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we are still, I actually just had the introduction made to the person at BCCS who oversees this process. So we will be working on it. So it is still in the very initial conversations. I will say though, during our 18-month design phase, in which we had a coalition of stakeholders from around the Commonwealth come together to help create the state specific program that we designed, we have had representation from BCCS and their workforce development sort of arm the whole way through. And they've been really supportive of this, and they see Fast Forward as the most logical way to be involved and engaged with the community college system.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from Senator Rome? Thank you again for your suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just for Kelsey, thank you so much for meeting with me over at Durrani and Manassas. Always happy to bring anyone to the 30th District, so I was delighted to see you there. Just between MJ, Kelsey, B, do you all have legislative priorities or basically request of the Virginia General Assembly for the 2026 session? Because if you do, I know our friends at DLS would love to have those suggestions from us to them sooner rather than later. Basically, the important things to note is, do you have things for specific policy only changes that don't require budget amendments, or do you have things that have a fiscal impact statement or would have a fiscal impact statement where we would have to separately go through an appropriations process?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for the question. I will have Kelsey put the number in the chat because she has the exact ask, but we are in the process of working on both of those tracks next year. So definitely we'll keep folks posted, but we are working on both a budget ask as well as some potential authorizing legislation, and we're still in the works of that. But as Kelsey will let folks know, we got private funding for the pilot phase that we are currently in, but this eventually is going to take some state investment, which is what we're looking forward to. So we'll keep folks posted on that, but appreciate the question. And yes, that is something we're looking forward to the turn of the year for the following legislative session.
And later in the meeting, we are going to discuss some of our deadlines. So MJ, if you could maybe take note of that, because the way that we have to work in order for us to get our ideas turned to legislation, we do have House and Senate deadlines for that. Commissioner Timmer.
Yeah, also kind of a budgetary related question. I know part of elevating a job is making sure that there's a livable wage attached to the job. So as part of your work, making sure that these positions of school chefs and school food workers are valued? Are you working towards extending beyond the apprenticeship to make sure that they can go into positions that are well paid and are well valued?
Sorry, I was waiting for MJ there, but I got this. Yes, absolutely. So we do recognize that this is a really critical element, right? That for the most part, these roles are part-time. They are, slightly above minimum wage. We recognize that this is a real challenge. And so part of what we see as we look at increasing the workforce and changing the perception is also that advocacy piece regarding wages, right? And one of the things that we are hoping is by increasing scratch cooking and sort of the skill level that's necessary for these jobs, that they can also be considered as reclassified to have a higher wage level. And then the other piece is these roles also can demonstrate, as we increase scratch cooking in divisions, there's also more opportunities for, oh, we need a procurement specialist. Oh, we're going to be doing some farm to school. Actually, logistics is getting quite a lot. If we have a central production kitchen and need to be sending out food within a day to ensure that it's fresh and not being frozen. So there's a lot that goes to this. So we're hoping really to look at it from the systems change approach of not just this workforce, but we're looking at it as a larger picture too.
And can you speak to how the locations were chosen for your pilot and what you might be looking for in newer locations as you might expand?
B, do you want to talk about how the original locations were chosen?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So we have a cohort of 8 divisions each year that work alongside our office and the Chef Ann Foundation through our Virginia Food for Virginia Kids initiative. And they're working towards increasing their scratch cooking, their local procurement, and the student-driven meal, student-inspired meals. So we know that, we want the students to be eating the meals, like you said earlier. So many of those divisions have already gone through intense training and technical assistance and have built out strategic plans to reach their goals related to those 3 areas. And so when we were going through our planning process with the Chef Ann Foundation for the Healthy School Food Pathways program, the group spoke about the need for some high level of scratch cooking to be happening within the divisions that are hosting apprentices. We want folks to come in to a program that's working on moving the needle and has a plan in place to do that. And so with the pilot, the goal was, okay, let's approach some divisions that have gone through the cohort process. They already have this plan in place. They have an assessment that's been done on their program. And then as we expand, looking at, what is the eligibility criteria for hosting an apprentice look like in the future?
Thank you, Commissioner Fagans.
Hi, thank you so much. And hello, B. So my question may be a little bit of a lighter lift, but with the Chef Ann Foundation and with this particular program, one of the things that we know is that in order to get kids to eat something that's healthy, but also something that is familiar to them, we also need to keep in mind things like culture and religious dietary restrictions, and the fact that Virginia is a very diverse state, and we have very diverse needs, and our students reflect that. Just wondering, is there any concentration or is there any promotion of culturally affirming foods along with that local food purchasing, as well as within the actual curriculum itself to kind of promote the use of locally sourced, culturally affirming foods?
Yeah, that's a great question. And hello, good to see you. Really, that aligns with our student-inspired meals. So we want the meals that the schools are serving to reflect the cultures, customs, cuisines of the student body. That looks different in each division, right? And so what we do, for example, through our recipe development team, the divisions are developing recipes that are taste tested by the students, and they don't kind of pass until they get a certain percentage of students that say, yes, I would eat this in the school meals. So we're seeing divisions tackle their their student-inspired meals in different ways. But what we try to do is share out best practices, work alongside divisions to provide technical assistance and training to ensure that they're really engaging with their student body and their school community, to serve meals that reflect the students.
Thank you.
Delegate Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to piggyback off of the theme that's rolling around here, especially from Madam Chair's question about the intentionality of the workforce and apprenticeship pilots. But I'm just scanning through where your pilot locations are. They seem to have stronger infrastructure or resources. And so I was wondering if there has been any type of equity metrics that kind of also will relate to food insecurity, or maybe divisions that don't have the kitchen capacity or staffing, or local food access already that's been limited by them. So I just wanted to kind of insert that in the conversation if you have any discussion on that. Thank you.
I can speak a little bit to this, and Kelsey, MJ, if you want to add anything to this. Really, in this pilot phase, we are kind of exploring what this looks like and ensuring that the backbone to the program works in order to expand it. But the divisions that were selected are divisions that within the process of expanding their scratch cooking had identified workforce as a huge need and vacancies as a huge need. Also, the goal was to ensure that we were supporting this program both in rural areas as well as urban areas and across Virginia. So we did approach the divisions to ensure that we were, reaching as far throughout Virginia as we could, while also ensuring that kind of we had our eye on what that looks like for the future.
And if I can add to that, I'm sorry to interrupt. If I can add to that, what I would also say is, in an ideal scenario, once we get through the pilot and we have some proof of concept and data for everyone, we really, in an ideal scenario, this would be a state-based program that would be something that would be open to any division who would like to participate. So if somebody does come to us and says, I don't have the equipment, I don't have the scratch cooking expertise, I'm just using individually wrapped products right now, like help me, that we would have people on the ground to be able to provide the technical assistance, to be able to provide the support to get them to that scratch cooking, should they desire that. And then we would be at a place to support them as they welcome apprentices and pre-apprentices into their programming. So that's our ideal scenario, is that this is something that is really, truly available across the Commonwealth.
Thank you. And I know that we all have great questions, but I am going to have to scooch us along to the next presenter because we do have 4. But please, if you have questions, go on and email them to me or to Ms. Harris Green, and we'll try to get the answers for the whole group so that everybody can get the answers to your questions. Thank you all so much for your information. Feel free to hang out just in case something else pops up. But now we are going to shift to Rodrigo Soto with the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis. And Rodrigo, hello. How are you?
Bo, I see some familiar faces from a press conference we just did on the very issue I'm about to talk about. So, Senator,
thank you for being here.
You'll be hearing very similar data. But first off, thank you so much for inviting us to speak, Delegate Price. We have been tracking the pending SNAP crisis, is how we're talking about it, for November really closely. And we know a lot of folks here are also wondering, what is the immediate impact that we'll see in November? But just like everyone else, we're also tracking what does the coming SNAP cuts mean for Virginia in future years? Because it's not just November that we're worried about. Congress has shifted a lot of state costs to the state, and that'll mean really big impacts for people. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and happy to answer questions after my initial remarks. Like I shared, my name is Rodrigo Soto, and I'm the Legislative and Campaigns Director here at the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis. Our work really centers on advancing racial and economic justice in Virginia, and they're both really intertwined with the work of ending hunger. So as everyone in the commission is aware by now, USDA's Food and Nutrition Services recently sent notice to states to announce that benefits would not continue in November if the current government shutdown persists. And we wanted to provide some data and just kind of who are we talking about when we talk about cuts to benefits. For Virginia, that means over 850,000 people are going to lose a critical lifeline. That includes an estimated 35,000 veterans who live in households that receive SNAP benefits. 67% of SNAP recipients are in families with children, and those households receive an average of $506 a month in SNAP benefits. And just based on 2023 data, we know that 1 in 4 Black Virginians live in households that receive SNAP at some point. For Hispanic and Latino Virginians, that number is 1 in 8, and it is 1 in 15 for AAPI Virginians. And there's absolutely no corner of the Commonwealth that will not feel the impacts of these SNAP cuts. Central Virginia, we're talking about over 170,000 people who rely on SNAP. In the Eastern region, that number is over 225,000 people. In the Northern region, 212,000 people are SNAP recipients. In the Piedmont region, that's over 150,000 people enrolled in SNAP. And the Western region has over 91,000 SNAP recipients. This impact is going to be real and devastating for the month of November. We do know that SNAP is critical in lifting people out of poverty, so much so that between 2015 and 2019, SNAP lifted 104,000 people, including 42,000 children above the poverty line each year. Halting benefits will force people to make incredibly difficult decisions in the coming weeks and overwhelm already under-resourced safety net providers like food banks. Just before this meeting started, TCI was proud to join Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, Senator Danica Roem, and other food access advocates in calling on USDA to use the $6 billion contingency fund to help mitigate the impact of SNAP cuts. Additionally, we're calling on federal leaders to use all available tools to transfer additional funds to the SNAP contingency fund. Based on last month's data, we do know that what the cost would be for Virginia to continue these benefits, and that would be $145 million to cover SNAP benefits, though that does not account for administrative costs. But lastly, as I shared earlier, we want to raise the issue of revenue as the Commission continues to monitor how policy choices will impact hunger in Virginia. On top of the immediate threat to SNAP benefits due to the current government shutdown, there are additional SNAP cuts that will impact Virginians. An estimated 91,000 families in Virginia, including 73,000 families with children and 66,000 working families, will lose at least $25 a month in SNAP benefits. Additionally, the expanded work reporting requirements will cause an estimated 78,000 people to be at risk of losing all or a significant share of their SNAP benefits because they live in households where at least one person is subject to the additional burdensome paperwork. Based on the current error rate, Virginia would also be on the hook for up to $197 million in the upcoming biennial budget and up to $528 million in the following biennial budget, which would not include the required increased administrative cost shift, as well as the increased administrative cost that comes with more paperwork. The cost shift will put state lawmakers in a difficult decision on having to cut benefits or restrict eligibility if it is unable to identify new sustainable revenues to meet this food security crisis. TCI has prepared a revenue menu for the Commission's consideration that includes revenue-raising proposals. We believe proposals like the fair share tax, which would create a new 10% state income tax bracket for taxable incomes over $1 million each year, and would raise $1.4 billion in the upcoming fiscal year of implementation, and would grow over time. That's real resources that could be used to make transformative investments that can decrease hunger in the Commonwealth. And with that, I will thank the Commission for the opportunity to speak, and happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. I also encourage anyone interested in not the immediate crisis, but the future impact for you all to watch the last meeting of the Emergency Committee on the Impacts of Federal Workforce and Funding Reductions, where a lot of conversation happened around reducing the error rate, what that would look like, and what some of those cuts mean for our future budget decisions. But thank you, Rodrigo, for delivering that sobering information with what we are potentially facing with November and in the coming months. Commissioners, are there any questions? Rodrigo, what, when we were talking about in that meeting, we were talking about the threshold that, what stipulations or what has to happen in order for Virginia to use, the rainy day fund. Are there any stipulations around that $6 billion for contingency, or is it just the powers that be need to see that this is, of course, a time that contingency funds need to be used?
It is the latter from our understanding from national partners. It is both a political will and a policy choice of whether or not to tap into the existing funds. The $6 billion, from our understanding, would not cover the full month of November. So we're also calling on the President's administration to transfer additional funds under existing authority that they have into that contingency fund to help offset additional potential cuts. The $6 billion would not cover it. So even if they used all that $6 billion, and they can't even use all $6 billion just for benefits, a part of it has to go to administrative costs.
Right.
We're talking, I think, recent estimates that about 3/4 of the benefits needed for the month. So additional funding is necessary, and they have the authority to transfer those funds. I think folks might be a little bit familiar with how the administration had transferred funds such as tariff funds for WIC previously. We will note there was, because of the actions for WIC recently, that covers October. There is actually from our understanding, there's no plan to cover WIC as well for the month of November. So we're talking about SNAP and WIC are currently under threat for the month of November. So that's a double whammy there.
And just to be clear, what you presented, is that just SNAP or that's SNAP and WIC?
It's just SNAP right now.
Okay.
So there's so many fires to put out, so many.
No, understood. Yeah.
But our immediate call to action is on the SNAP side.
Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Robbins.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Great presentation. I would like to know how we can take action as commissioners. What can we do now? And what are the immediate steps with immediate contacts that we can reach out to, resources? What are the buttons that we can push to help this, to be an asset to you, and to, obviously, an asset to the citizens that are deserving of this? But how can we help, like, in the immediate, and then, of course, in the long term?
Yeah, I think what we're calling on right now for folks, both in the commission and also in the broader ecosystem, is to have members of Congress, if they haven't already, call on USDA to use these contingency funds. We know Congresswoman McClellan already did a press conference stating her public position on that. If your member of Congress has not, I know folks in the commission represent various parts of Virginia, then we would encourage you to reach out to them to do so. And then everyone's represented by our 2 U.S. senators, so continuing to communicate with them as well would be an immediate first step for the November crisis. And like I shared, we are also thinking about the long term, so we're happy to continue to have these conversations around revenue. But we do know that there are not many funds, there are not going to be a lot of resources available next year just because of, we're not just talking about SNAP cuts, but there are significant cuts to healthcare. And there's also a looming health insurance crisis because of the expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits. Sick people are hungry people are sick people. I mean, we're talking about compounding impacts here. So we also know that the legislature will have to make additional difficult decisions when it comes to whether or not we fund healthcare, whether or not we fund schools, whether or not we fund hunger. So kind of at the base of it all, we would love to continue the conversation with commissioners and anyone interested in talking about updating our really upside down tax code. Our tax code is so upside down right now. A millionaire in Virginia is in the same top state income tax bracket as a teacher, as your local elementary school teacher, middle school teacher, high school. They're paying the same rate. So we do think that having the ultra wealthy pay their fair share and using those significant revenues to invest in transformative programs, whether it be food banks, whether it be SNAP enhancements or improvements, whether it be Medicaid, ACA, we think that that's kind of at the base of it all.
Thank you. And on this meeting, because we are virtual, we can't take any votes for any immediate action for the commission. But I do think that because we all represent either ourselves or other organizations, if you have the ability to look internally to see if there's any communication that you can do, and then at our November meeting when we're in person, hopefully a lot of the crisis would have been taken care of by then, but if not, we can definitely take a vote on any actions that we may want to take as a commission at that point. And we will also be talking about some of the legislative proposals that we'll be discussing for the 2026 session. Commissioner Fagans.
Thank you so much. So my question is related to, I guess, forecasting for future statistics and further SNAP cuts, related to the loss of the USDA's hunger study, and the fact that they use that information. A lot of politicians will use that information to advocate for funding for the next year or 2 or 3, for the next couple of years for SNAP funding. So have you all been able to forecast, or I know you can't tell the future, but maybe, I guess, think about ways that is also going to impact these cuts?
Yeah, and like I shared during and we're happy to send some of the data from one of our impact reports, but like I shared, the HR1, the reconciliation bills, changes to SNAP, we do have estimates of how many people would lose either a certain amount or all benefits, and them losing benefits does not mean that they can afford groceries. Their hunger will continue. It just means that they cannot use SNAP to address their hunger and will go to other places. They'll go to churches, they'll go to food banks, they'll ask other people, like close friends and families. Hunger doesn't go away just because your SNAP benefits are cut because of increased work reporting requirements. So we do have that data, and we're continuing to lift that up because that includes veterans, that includes children. I mean, we're talking about people that we should continue to be fighting for here in Virginia.
Thank you so much.
Irvine.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I did see where Robin had a question about communications and maybe what messages or phrases. I know for the food banks, we are talking about that SNAP is the first line of defense for food insecure families. We do not want our representatives or the general public to think that food banks can be the first line of defense. And so we have conducted several interviews in the last 2 days, and we are calling upon representatives to consider appropriation like they did with the WIC as well. But also, we're trying to find a way to address this issue without creating panic. We know it's serious, and we're facing a deadline coming up, very soon. But I would just like to hear from you a little bit about the balance of that, right? And then whether the commission has the opportunity or not to speak on behalf of our food insecure neighbors.
I will not, on the second part, I will leave that to Madam Chair, because she has the gavel, virtual or physical, for a reason. On the first part, I think it's just continuing to lift. If you're a direct service provider, I think the direct stories are probably the most impactful, because at TCI, we can crunch the numbers. I'm sure a lot of service providers, we will crunch the numbers and give statistics like I shared earlier, but it's sharing the story about how the lack of action, particularly from the Trump administration, to not use the contingency funds are going to have a detrimental impact. Like I shared, without SNAP, countless people would go back to poverty. Like that, SNAP is the line for folks. And I say that as someone whose family has benefited from SNAP, and without it, we would have gone hungry at night. So this is a policy choice ultimately. On the standardized language piece, I think it's just having a clear message to your member of Congress, because everyone's represented by one member of the House of Representatives and 2 U.S. senators. So you can send one email to 3 people or 3 emails to 3 different people, but the call is the same. Use all available contingency funds that exist, so that's $6 billion that we're talking about, and transfer additional funds to the contingency fund so that we can mitigate the impacts, because we know that $6 billion is still not enough to cover what families need in November. And especially as we're talking about going into the holiday season, families will have to decide whether or not they'll even celebrate Thanksgiving. And that is a horrible position to put families in. And they should, and like I said, food banks and other direct service providers, they're already overworked, under-resourced. I mean, we know the thing. I mean, this is not an uncommon piece, but SNAP needs to be funded. It needs to be protected in the immediate term, and then in the long term, as the commission considers what the future of hunger is in Virginia, what investments need to be made to address hunger.
I agree. The other thought I had was there's 27,000 retailers across the country that's going to lose income, basically, because people won't be able to buy the groceries. And so it's just a thought. I don't know, Madam Chairman, but, maybe we can reach out to some the Retail Association. I know they've been very active in messaging the economic impact this is going to have, not just for the retailer, but for the communities in which the retailers are located.
Yes, I definitely appreciate that. And the conversations that we can have, like I said, we can all act within our own individual authority. And I'm saying that also to constituents that are watching. If you live in Virginia, what Mr. Soto has said, you have 3 representatives that your email matters just as much as mine or a commission's, and also volume usually speaks when it comes to this. But I can't take a formal vote on our thing, but I mean, I would much rather, instead of one letter come from all of us, if they got, 22 out of forgot how many there are of us, but like if they got 20 letters, you know, on behalf of our own constituencies as well. So I don't see our inability to take a vote right now necessarily as an obstacle, but just being creative with how we can get that out. But I appreciate you. Those are the two asks, and we can say it in our own way. We can absolutely reach out to some of the retailers that we've heard from, especially those that have been partners in some of our conversations and in our meetings, to make sure that they're reaching out as well. I'm sure they know, you know, what this would do, not only to their bottom line, but thinking about this more globally, the local economies, right? And all of the work that we've done in order for SNAP benefits to be used for even more things. That means even more people and even more types of retailers are going to be impacted. And with that, I do want to thank you, Rodrigo. I know that you all stand at the ready and communicate very quickly new information. If by chance you have anything new that you can update for the November or December meeting, you have a standing invitation. So I'll make sure that Tempest reaches out just to see and check in. But thank you all so much, because I also know it weighs a lot on you, because I know I found out in Newport News, it's 60,000 just in Newport News. And that's not just a number, that is 60,000 people, including, like you said, veterans, elderly, children. So I know that the work you all are doing is daunting, but thank you for the data and information. And feel free to hang out just in case any other questions come up. But for now, we are going to shift to Keisha Williams, the grant coordinator specialist with the Office of Food Distribution at VDACS, and that is the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And so we want to thank Commissioner Oliver for suggesting this presentation to speak about the programs and the work that you all are doing. So thank you so much for being here today. You can take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Great intro. Thank you. All right. Again, my name is Keisha Williams. I am here representing our division director, Robert Davenport, the Division of Marketing Development. Can you all see my slides?
Yes, we can.
You can. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Okay. All right. The Virginia Department of Agriculture's Marketing and Develop Division, where a diverse mission and goals is to locate our new domestic and international markets, buyers for Virginia producers of agricultural products, foods and beverages, and forest products. We also are in our division, we have market and promote the sale. We help to market and promote the sale of the Virginia produced foods and beverages through our Virginia grown and Virginia finest. We provide market news and services and publications to producers and industry, and assist with agribusiness and forestry companies to locate or expand here in Virginia. In the food distribution department, we also manage the distribution of food to schools, food banks, institutions, and all institutions around Virginia. In our food distribution department, we manage and distribute the USDA commodities donated for foods and administer the funds to approximately 500 public and private entities throughout the state. The recipients include public schools, hospitals, public and private schools, hospitals, nursing homes, soup kitchens, elderly nutrition programs, correctional facilities, summer programs, and daycare centers. Foods are also made available to food banks for distribution to these Virginians in need. We also help to support agriculture and industry by marketing Virginia products, as well as USDA donated products to schools and institutional buyers. We assist in Commonwealth's farm to school efforts. We also assist in a part of the Virginia Emergency Operations Center, Emergency Service Function 11. And what brings us here today, we also manage food access programs. A few of the food access programs we're going to talk about today is going to be our VFAITH, the Virginia Food Agricultural Investment Fund, the VFAITH, the Virginia Agricultural Food Assistance Fund Program, and VFM, the Virginia Fresh Match, which is not managed by VDACS, but is partners with the VDACS programs. First off, the Virginia Food Agriculture Investment Fund, commonly known as VFAITH, is a statewide program that was created in 2020 by the General Assembly that seeks to support the local food systems by investing in projects that improve retail access to fresh foods in low-income areas with poor access to these foods. The VFAITH Awards in the past have made awards up to $50,000 for the construction, rehabilitation, equipment upgrades, expansion of grocery stores, small retailers, or any type of food innovative retail projects in underserved, resource-limited communities. These projects must have a retail component. They must also accept federal SNAP benefits and participate in the Virginia Fresh Match and nutrition incentive programs. Specifically, VFAITH is focused on low-income, low-access communities which have been disproportionately affected by unequal investment, slow growth, including a lack of access to capital. So far, VFAITH has awarded up to $1.5 million in support of 24 innovative retail projects in 19 localities since fiscal year 2021. With this year's 10 new awardees, the VFAITH program has expanded to include a large-scale retail category for grocery stores that meet our program guidelines. This new category will expand new grant opportunities to large-scale retailers that are committed to equitable food access in the Commonwealth. Administered by VDACS, the VFAITH program supports local food systems by investing in for reimbursable grants awards for up to $100,000 to $250,000. And this past award, we awarded Wakefield Market. Wakefield is one of the only locally owned grocery stores in 2 counties, and for over 30 years, Nick Garrett and the team at Wakefield are working to increase the storage capacity for new freezers, along with improvements to infrastructure that will provide access to local and fresh foods beyond harvest. The Berkeley Supermarket, a Black-owned business, was established in 2020 during COVID after realizing that the Berkeley community in Norfolk, Virginia was a food desert with limited options to fresh, healthy foods. This funding will allow for the purchase of more electronic carts for seniors, upgrades to freezer and refrigeration units, improved systems to support the Virginia Fresh Match, as well as SNAP benefit programs. Funding for this project will assist them to continue to provide healthy food options in that community. And here are 2 examples of our standard VFAITH grantees. Darnell Gardens Patch is a family-owned business which has been around for 40 years in the Orange, Virginia area and prioritizes accessibility, affordability, and sustainability. As one of the only produce suppliers in that region accepting SNAP and Virginia Fresh Match, these VFAITH funds will support the purchase of a forklift to improve product handling, a new freezer to increase cold storage, capacity for local meats, and critical infrastructure improvement. This investment will allow them to better support local farmers and food producers while strengthening their regional food system. The Mighty Thundercloud Edible Forest, a Black-owned regenerative farm with plans to expand its infrastructure and improve access to culturally significant crops for low-income, low-access communities on the Eastern Shore. This expansion will enable farm-to-scale operations and enhance its role as a sustainable, community-focused business. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the Virginia Fresh Match. Virginia Fresh Match is a network of farmers and farmers markets, mobile markets, farm stores, and community food stores that double SNAP EBT food assistance, formerly known as food stamps, and provides access to fresh fruits and vegetables. LEAP, Local Environmental Agricultural Project, is our sponsor. They make fresh fruits and vegetables more affordable for low-income, low-access families while connecting local farmers with more sales and strengthening food systems. The Virginia Agricultural Food Access Program, better also known as VAFAP, the state program provides grants to charitable organizations to purchase these Virginia-grown agricultural products that must be distributed to insecure residents in accordance with the food distribution guidelines for charitable food assistance organizations. Established by the Virginia General Assembly in 2021, VFAITH compensates farmers for food products that are donated or sold to charitable food assistance programs. A total of $1.1 million in reimbursement grant funds is available for this program. Thus far, VAFAP has awarded up to over $3.5 million in support of the local projects in 16 localities to charitable food assistance organizations that engage local farmers and growers to purchase locally grown agricultural products that will be distributed to persons in need. These organizations have demonstrated how their projects will benefit people and families who are insecure. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me, or I can take a few questions now.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Williams, do you have just like a chart of like, here's the name, here's the acronym, and this is what it does? Because I know you have it on the slides, but that would be so helpful, because when we're going through and we're like, oh, does this type of program exist or something, but just turn in some of your information into like a chart. Would that be possible?
Definitely.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Specifically, Keisha, could you speak to the funding that's available for the Food Access Investment Fund? My understanding is that's not a recurring line item in the budget. There's a fixed amount of money there. Do you know how much is currently available? Where is that in process in terms of going out the door?
Yes, you are correct, Eddie, in mentioning that it is not a refundable grant. We have probably just shy of $1 million left for future rounds. I don't have dates as to when we will announce, but we do have just shy of $1 million for a future round of this program.
And which program was that?
The Virginia Food Access, VFA, Virginia Food Access.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know it's a lot.
Okay. Any other questions? In the chart, Ms. Williams, if you could also put those funding mechanisms, if they have like recurrent funding or if it's grant, I think that would also help us when we're weighing all of the priorities that we're going to have to be weighing.
Yes, I definitely do that for you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, you are welcome to hang out just in case someone has a question a little later. And our last presentation, I want to thank everyone, but I want to give a special thank you to Dana Parsons and Betsy Archer, who are with Positive Age and Leading Age Virginia Foundation. This was a very short notice invite. I happened to see an email that they had sent, and I was like, oh, this would be great for us to hear more. And they were able to join us today. So I'm going to turn it over to them for them to walk us through the work that they do, but also to talk about the report that they shared that we'll also have online if it's not already there. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Delegate Price, for the opportunity to speak to the Commission this afternoon. My name is Betsy Archer. I'm the Executive Director of Positive Age, a Leading Age Virginia Foundation. Our vision is positive aging for each Virginian, and as we all know, health, wellness, and indeed positive aging often depend on accessible and affordable food and nutrition. We recently shared a copy of our Food Justice for Older Adults report with Delegate Price and the other members of the General Assembly. Happy to share a few of the key findings from this program with you today, and afterwards I'll ask my colleague Dana to share our advocacy efforts on food justice for older adults. In 2023, Positive Age was awarded a Community Impact Grant from the Community Foundation for a Greater Richmond to quantify and articulate the impact of the loss of SNAP benefits followed by the end of the COVID-19 public health emergency. To better understand how this issue was impacting real people, we directly engaged adults 60 years and older in the Greater Richmond area in an in-person listening session and facilitated data survey completion. Our intention was to collect data, stories, and valuable feedback from these neighbors facing food insecurity. We learned that among the 146 participants, there was an observed 61% average decrease in monthly SNAP benefits, from an average of $199 a month to just $76 a month. These neighbors told us that their diet and access to food has an effect on their physical, mental, social, and emotional health. They described heavily relying on nonprofit organizations and government assistance programs. They shared stories of having to decide between purchasing food and other necessities, paying utility bills, affording medication, housing, and insurance. Our report lists over 230 verbatim comments and quotes from these older adults. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Rodrigo because we love the powerful combination of data plus storytelling. We think it's very compelling. So I think these quotes, I'm just going to read 3 of them for you this afternoon in the interest of time, but I think they'll hit home. One says, "I don't know how we would get food half of the time if we didn't go to the food bank." Another says, "After you pay bills, there isn't anything left." And a third participant said, "I don't have a car. I take 3 buses about an hour and 40 minutes one way on Tuesdays and Thursdays to get to the food bank." And lastly, the last listening session participant quote I'll share with you is, "It is really tough when you go to the grocery store. I'm with a calculator saying, well, I can't get that, but I can get this. And to be honest, no one should ever really think like this. But for my diabetes, I was prescribed Ozempic. Thank goodness it reduces my appetite so I don't feel hungry and I don't have to worry about eating. Since I skipped eating, I will have an extra meal for tomorrow." Those are verbatim comments from our neighbors. Yep, that was heavy. So I encourage you to read the testimonies to hear and empathize with their lived experience, honor their contributions to affect change in this space, and join us in finding a way forward to making food access more affordable for them. In 2024, we were again awarded a grant from the Community Foundation for this work, this time to use what we learned from our neighbors to convene a group of local nonprofits to come together under a common goal and aim to end food insecurity. We recognize that greater progress could be achieved through collaboration and shared knowledge with like-minded organizations that are passionate about this mission. We established the Food Justice Coalition with over 20 local nonprofits in our area. They include Feed More, local food pantries, the Federation of Virginia Food Banks, hi, Eddie, Henrico and Chesterfield County, and the Span Center, to name a few. Many of these organizations witness the daily impact of reduced SNAP benefits on the communities and the individuals they serve. That's why it's crucial for us to collaborate, amplify their voices, tell their stories, and highlight the incredible work being done to address this issue. We acknowledge that this project is Richmond-centric, but hunger is not. We know that from conversations with community partners and other localities throughout the Commonwealth that food insecurity is of great concern for older adults, their families, and caregivers. Positive Age now has hundreds of stories and compelling data to show how this is affecting our neighbors. We also have a mobilized coalition that is helping to amplify these stories and challenges to the right audiences. I'll ask Dana now to talk about our advocacy efforts in this space.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Delegate Price, for the opportunity to talk with you today and members of the Commission. I'm Vice President and Legislative Counsel with Leading Age Virginia. We are an organization that represents the entire not-for-profit continuum of aging services, and Positive Age is a foundation of Leading Age Virginia, which receives grants, conducts research, and then really helps to inform our policy and our advocacy efforts. During the last General Assembly session, a budget amendment was introduced to increase the minimum SNAP benefits for older adults in Virginia. The amendment would have raised the minimum monthly SNAP benefit from $23 to $50 for individuals age 60 and older. Although the budget amendment was not adopted, Positive Age through Leading Age Virginia advocated for this increase through a number of different methods of advocacy. And so we are really hoping to use this report and the work that Positive Age has done to help support efforts in the next General Assembly session to increase the SNAP benefit and deal with resolving areas addressing food insecurity. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And I'll say again on the commission's website, all of the presentations and the report that was referenced by Ms. Archer are up there for us to all take a look to the general public, but specifically the commissioners, as we're starting to think through our potential legislative package for next year. Are there any questions for Positive Age and Leading Age? Okay. Oh, there we are. Senator Pekarsky.
Thank you. Actually, I do have just a question. Since we know that mobility is such a big factor for our older adults, can you talk a little bit about just what you see and some of those barriers and what impact that has, if you're able to, please?
Sure. So this issue does come up when we speak with our neighbors about, accessing food banks or, the transportation conversation happens. Sometimes we also talk about social isolation. We know that food brings people together, but sometimes, if a neighbor is food insecure, they might not have social interactions. We talked about Thanksgiving at the top of the call. That might not be happening for some of these neighbors. And so, as you pointed out, mobility does limit what means they can go to actually access food at the food pantries or at the food banks. There are programs like Meals on Wheels, and all the area agencies on aging throughout Virginia have programs that will help with mobility and food access and kind of those door-to-door programs. But if you consider that older adults will have compounding factors or compounding issues, it goes beyond just food and that immediate need, as you've pointed out.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, I don't see any, but we have your information. We have the report. We probably will have questions once we all read the report, but thank you for going over that at the high level and just for the work that that you're doing. And like you said, data and storytelling is what impacts policymaking, because if I haven't walked through that, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And so it's very informative as we're making these decisions. So thank you so much. We are now at the next steps part of our agenda, where I invite any of the presenters to stay, especially if you have anything that you want to add. We'll have another chance during public comment if there's anything that you want to add after we have this short discussion. But I first want to kick it over to Attorney Brooks to remind us of any legislative mandates that the commission has and any due dates specific to the legislative mandates, but also to run through the calendar of what the House and the Senate, or at least the House, what our deadlines are for legislative drafting, priorities, discussions, and such.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so starting with the legislative mandates for the commission, the first and really the only legislative mandate that we have this year is from House Joint Resolution number 447 from Delegate Anthony. And that requires the commission, if you remember, the joint resolution requires the commission to establish a statewide food desert mapping tool. And as part of that, it requires the commission to submit to DLAS an executive summary and report of its progress in meeting that directive no later than the first day of the 2026 regular session of the General Assembly, which is that second Wednesday in January. And moving on to the calendar, I have a link here I'm going to drop in the chat to our pre-filing calendar, so you guys can take a look at that and follow along if you would like to. And pre-filing calendar, you can submit draft requests at any time at the moment. So draft requests are open, you can submit them, and you are encouraged to submit them early. Pre-filing itself does not begin until November 17th. That's a Monday. And then the deadline for requests for drafts of pre-filed legislation must be into DLS by 5 p.m. on Monday, December 1st. All of the draft requests that come in by then will be available for review by New Year's Eve at midnight. So happy New Year's. Congratulations, you've got a bunch of drafts to review. And after that, on the 7th of January, that is when all the requests for redrafts and corrections for pre-file legislation need to be in by 5 p.m. So if you receive a draft back and you want to have corrections made or have a redraft done, you get that back to us by the 7th, and then those are going to be returned to you by the 13th at noon, the day before session begins on the 14th. And when session begins on the 14th, pre-filing ends at 10 o'clock a.m. After that, all bills will be counted towards bills. Hope that makes sense. Looking forward to it.
And to be clear, those dates are for legislators. And so if the commission has an idea, it will be up to the legislators to input the information in order to get the draft, to push the bill through the legislative process, and then the commissioners can be a part of the advocacy part, whether it's members of your own organization or you yourself. But it would be great for us to have specific proposals that we voted on like last year, to be able to say that we have commission recommendations. So when Senator Rome or Delegate Cousins or any of us, Delegate Anthony, whoever, go up and say, hey, here's my bill, it's coming from the commission, that usually they know it's been through some sort of a vetting process, but there's been public input and communication about it. And so then once we get that bill or that resolution or that budget amendment, it goes through the process in January and February. And if you need a reminder on how a bill becomes a law, give me a call. We can talk through that. It is much messier than the cute cartoon that is on the Virginia website. But that is the process. And so we have had a couple of things that I would encourage the public, but specifically the commissioners, to look back on. Attorney Yates and Attorney Brooks have given us, I think it was April, they gave us a rundown of what was passed. And then some of the things that either were vetoed or didn't make it out because of funding or, whatever the issues are. So our legislative proposals might be, hey, let's try again. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. But then since April, we have had several presentations about the concerning direction that food security and insecurity is going in with the federal cuts. And so there may be additional legislative proposals that you have. There could be ideas for, I would caution us, I welcome any proposal. I would caution us not to spend all of our time on budget proposals. If you have heard from the Senate and the House leaders in appropriations and finance, we are facing a challenging time. So a new pilot project that costs $5 million is just not going to be able to happen with all of the cuts that we're facing and all of the types of ways that we're going to have to try and backfill, like we've only talked about today. Food, but then there's, as was mentioned, healthcare, there's housing, there's education, there's lots of things that will be discussed for the budget. So if there are any particular legislative proposals that we can think of or have seen work in other states, we've discussed some of those ideas previously, that have a smaller budget, I would prioritize our use of our time on that. And then we also did get that that presentation. I think that was Attorney Yates, but what other states have done with a little bit of a descriptor, so we could talk about translating some of those things to Virginia. But not everything that we have recommended has been implemented to this point. So what I would like, after having spoken with the FOIA Council, and gotten clear on what we can legally and appropriately do as a public body. I am going to send out an email for you to respond to me with your top 3 legislative proposals. And if right now you have just an idea that you want to talk out I will also be making office hours where I will hope maybe someone, Chandler or Hannah, can join us potentially so we can not accidentally spend time on a potentially unconstitutional idea. Their legal expertise is really valued. But at our November meeting, we really need to vote on what it is that we are going to be recommending as a body so that the legislators can decide who's carrying what, get it all drafted up by the deadline, or at least get our requests in by the deadline. And so we really need a quorum for the in-person meeting in November. That is Thursday, November 6th at 2 p.m. Because we will want to vote. If we do not have a quorum, we will not be able to vote in time to really have the recommendations, as it were. And then at the December meeting, which we will send a poll out for, we will also need a quorum for that in-person meeting as we talk about potential budget amendments, as we have a hopefully more clear picture about our economic forecast, but also trying to finalize our work plan for the post-session 2026 work. So we do have, only 2 months, 2 meetings left, but quite a bit of work in front of us. So that is what the next steps will look like. In addition to an update on the presentation that we saw about the potential mapping tool, an update on these SNAP benefits that we're hearing about once we get to November, and introducing other nonprofits that are doing really important work in Virginia. We'll continue to have some presentations. So I do see that Senator Rome has a question, but I am now opening the floor to the commissioners for a question on anything that you heard from any of the presenters that are still public, or the next steps that we just went over. But Senator Rome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first thing I just want to note is that while we were in session this past year, Arkansas, that progressive bastion of the South, I ended up passing universal free breakfast through its trifecta of Republican government, which is the same thing that Pennsylvania has for free school breakfast as well. And theirs was done with a Republican Senate, a Democratic House, and a Democratic governor. And so I like to think this will strengthen our hand. I will be resubmitting that bill this upcoming year with Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker. And this is a sort of thing where based on, as Madam Chair was just saying about, hey, we're going to have very tight financial straits for this upcoming year. I think it's even more important than before that we actually pursue universal free school meals. And a really significant reason for this is that at a time where we have so much uncertainty about what's going to happen for funding for adults right now, the very least the Commonwealth should be doing is stepping up to make sure that, as the organization's name goes, no kid goes hungry. That's the point. And so that's going to be a big thing I'm going to continue championing. I still think this is a very, very good idea.
That is included in the report from April, right? The things that were introduced but didn't get passed?
Oh, Madam Chair, I will say for the report that came out in April, yes. What I will say, however, is that the administration's report that came out based on my bill that we passed last year, they did not even mention that Pennsylvania had passed universal free breakfast. They had only mentioned 8 states that had passed breakfast and lunch. That was not included in the report. Since then, we've now added New York, that has now done universal free breakfast and lunch for all students, by the way, so they're, right. So breakfast and lunch for them. And Arkansas has now done for breakfast, which means that we've got a Democratic trifecta state that did breakfast and lunch. We've got a Republican state that did just breakfast. I'm willing to take either or both, whatever I can get right now to feed kids. I mean, just that's where we're at. And I hope that my fellow commissioners will join me in this very good endeavor.
And please, Senator Rome, do not bank on our memory, but once that email comes out, please respond. And I know that Delegate Cousins and Delegate Anthony and some of the other delegates and senators had other bills. So if I don't hear from you again about that priority, I'm going to assume that we're not looking to do it in 2026, right? Because the Senate has bill limits and,
Oh, if you don't hear from me about universal free school meals, please check in on my local hospital because something has gone horribly wrong.
Understood, Senator. I meant just more globally for the others. I just don't want people to think that I'm going to assume that just because you put it in before, that means that you want to put it on this list. I do need people to respond to the email with what it is they're hoping to work on. Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Comment and a question. I think it's really important that we hear from the Department of Social Services about their plans for lowering the error rate, because I think there are a lot of different ways to go about that. There are significant investments the state is going to have to make in new technology systems and staffing at the local level to drive that error rate down, which will ultimately save the state a lot of money that could be going toward other priorities if we're successful in doing that. But I think we, as advocates, have concerns that this single-minded focus on lowering the error rate will lead to putting a lot of barriers in between people who need the program and actually accessing it. It's going to lead to more verification requirements, just a lot of additional hurdles. And so I want us to just be cognizant of that and be responsive to what continuing to access the program and increase participation actually looks like. So I'm hopeful we can get someone from DSS to speak to the next commission meeting. My question is related to the food mapping exercise. And can you speak in a little bit more detail as to next steps with Deloitte? Are there conversations about working with them directly, or
that'll be on the agenda for November? And so at our November meeting, we will have more information and we'll either vote on or discuss what we want to put in that executive summary and report that we'll be sending in 2026. We do not have currently a budget item, and so it would not be a contract. It would be, hey, here's the report off the information that we found, and then we would also probably need a budget amendment or something to go along with it if there are any costs that would be associated with it. And then there are also 2 legal questions that are being run through lawyers and such on the process. So that is going to be on the agenda, the mapping tool conversation. And I think Delegate Anthony had a couple of more questions that she was getting the answer to about potentials for any crafting of how we could use that. I think there was some questions about landing page because this is not a permanent commission. And so we don't have our own permanent website. So we need to think through some of those things, but we will talk through that. I will extend an invitation to DSS for someone to come meet with us. Should they not be able to on our November or December meeting, I will pull the video of a previous conversation that they've had in front of, it was either the boot camp for the House Committee on Health and Human Services, or it was the Joint Commission on Healthcare, or it was both. But there was a conversation about what were some of the things that they were thinking through and maybe trying to do. And then there was also more conversation about that from the House Appropriations Committee vantage point at the last meeting of that emergency committee. So there are some statements that are on record should we not be able to get them in time for the November meeting, but we will extend that that invitation. Thank you for the suggestion. Any other questions? Okay. So quickly, I will go to oh, and there's also we're gonna get Ms. Harris Green to send out the FOIA document on emails and calls and such so that we are in compliance at all steps. I know that's important to quite a few of us on here, but just to make sure that we're doing it appropriately and also making sure that we're keeping our public records. It is now time for public comment. Ms. Harris Green, do we have anyone signed up for public comment today?
Not at this time.
Okay. Are there any final comments or thoughts? And this can be from commissioners or presenters. Commissioner Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the commission as a whole. Of course, anybody else that's on the call. It is October 22nd, and the countdown is on to November 1. Rather than being reactive, is there some sort of emergency call meeting we need to have, maybe with the Department of Ag and maybe with the school system, Department of Ed, about how we could send food home with kids that are on these SNAP? I mean, my God, you're talking, we've got, what, just a few days until it could actually be impacted where families are not going to eat. And if we had the Department of Ag, perhaps, and the Department of Education get together, I mean, we also can work with social services. I get that, or hospitals or whatever, but we do know we have access to children 180 days. So in November, we could send home food boxes, perhaps, something that the Department of Ag already kind of has lined up in process in some other programs, and then work with the Department of Ed on making education to make sure these food boxes get sent home on the school buses with the kids or picked up by their parents or whoever. But rather than being reactive and waiting until November 1st, is there anything that we should be doing? I mean, I know that's a lot for me to say, but I'm just very concerned when November 1st comes here. As a former educator, I mean, I left education because I was not pleased at what I couldn't do as a teacher. I was threatened to be fired for giving children milk. But at any rate, I am passionate about making sure we don't wait till kids are going home hungry.
Yeah. No, I apologize if I didn't give a more full answer before, but I think this is the sobering reality of some of the limitations of interim commissions. We do not have budget power. We do not have, as a commission, authority to do some of the things that could actually help right now. And again, we can't really take a vote on anything because we're at this virtual meeting. However, there are legislators on other committees and the legislators on this committee that are also parts of other conversations where we are not ignoring this. We are absolutely attuned to this. Like I said earlier, I got an email from the city of Newport News that 60,000 or 61,000 just in Newport News were going to be potentially impacted by this. And so just because the conversation is not happening within the confines of the Commission to End Hunger, I don't want you to think that that conversation is not happening. Now, while I say this, I also want to be very clear, the predicament that we are in, that we do not have $6 billion in our budget either, right? And so it's not just a matter of being able to vote on something and get it done. States cannot do the heavy lifting of the federal government. These are federal government programs, A, because they should be, but B, we have a balanced budget mandate. We can't have a deficit. And so it's not like we can just say, okay, we're just going to print our own money and send it to the food banks. And then, hey, here's a loan, food banks. You guys go and do these things. That's just not the reality of the legislature of Virginia. And so I think right now, our individual voices, our collective voices, our constituent voices, all being focused, like Mr. Soto was saying, toward those that can actually make the decision to do the right thing with the federal dollars that actually are available. This is my own personal editorial, but maybe not a ballroom, maybe not private jets, maybe not all of these things. Maybe we feed kids and the elderly and veterans and families. My own personal thoughts there, but the federal government has the money. So this is not a money issue. This is a will you do the right thing to take care of the people that we care about issue. And so I think the advocacy has to happen. But should we get to November 6th at 2 p.m. and there are things that we have found that are being done in other committees through the budget or whatever are at a little bit of a higher level than some of us on this call, we will definitely give that update. But hopefully the update will be all of us will have said, we sent a letter, we called our congressperson, we called our U.S. senators, and maybe a bit beyond that, we called the chairs of the committees, we called the secretaries of, the agencies and do our due diligence. So I know it is frustrating because I wish I could do something more right now. But I think right now, our role is advocacy until we can see, like I was saying before, I'm not sure if you saw the meeting, but even our separate rainy day fund has specific thresholds that have to be met. So while the average person obviously is like, hello, hungry children are a rainy day, we have not met the eligibility to be able to even tap into our rainy day fund. So we can put out a press release, from the administration that says, oh, look what we did. We saved all this great money, but that money can't even be used for this, right? So there've got to be some conversations within the administration, the leadership of the Senate and the House, and see what we can do. But Commissioner Robbins, I wholeheartedly hear and feel your passion. I just want to make sure that we're doing what we can do within this commission, but then outside of that, just know that there are intense conversations going on, because I think, as a lot of us are very passionate about making sure people have food. And come November 6th, we will have, like I said, that update. But unfortunately, interim commissions are not set up for the agility of rapid response. We're an advisory committee for legislation for the next year, right? And so so there are some restrictions to that as a body. But again, Robin sending out as many letters as she wants to all of these people, absolutely. Senator Rome, I'm sure we can put a letter together, right? So the press conferences, with Senator, Representative McClellan, all of that, we definitely have a lot that can be done in our various roles, but did not want folks to think that just because we have not taken any votes or actions here today does not mean that folks aren't doing anything legislatively or beyond. And so I appreciate the question and look forward to hopefully a better update at our next meeting, or at least some of these good ideas that we can vote on to fight for a better day for Virginians and food security. Any other questions or closing comments? And I do want to be clear, because we have some nonprofits on, that was on behalf of Delegate Price and Delegate Price alone. So we just want to make sure our presenters, they gave their part. This is now, we're individually speaking. All right. Not seeing any other questions, not seeing any public comment. Want to remind people, if you go to bit.ly/VA Hunger Commission, you can see all of our meetings and see all of the presentations within each of the meetings. So if you're interested in seeing the presentations from today, you'll go to that website, click on October 22nd, and then those PDF links will be there. You can also click to rewatch this if you needed to rehear something that was said. Our next meeting will be in person, Thursday, November 6th at 2 p.m., where we will need a quorum for votes. If there is nothing else, I will entertain a motion for us to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Chair. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we will adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you so much for all of your time and efforts. We are now adjourned. Have a good day.